back to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. Today's show is sponsored by the Interior Design Business Academy, and specifically their event, The Real Deal, that takes place May 10th, 11th, 12th, 2023. If you are a longtime listener of the podcast, then I know that you know Terri Taylor. This is her 8th time on the show. I have to say, I just love her Terryisms. They make me smile. They sometimes crack me up, but they always make so much good darn sense. In episode 662, she taught us about her golden letter of agreement that changes the way you approach remodel projects. In episode 813, she talked about why she suggests charging flat fees versus hourly billing. And on more than one occasion, in fact, every occasion, Terri teaches us the importance of charging our worth. Right? Terri is back today to talk to us about her next Real Deal event. She holds it just once a year, and more specifically, she's here to talk about the 5 mistakes and how to avoid them when working with a contractor. I think maybe I probably just got your attention, right? Over the past 10 plus years, Terri with the Interior Design Business Academy has coached hundreds of designers into growing their businesses to 6 and 7 figures with grace and ease. And now, fellow podcaster, she hosts the Interior Design Business Academy podcast. Terri is known as a straight-talking technical expert when it comes to streamlining your interior design business. Her value-packed events and coaching programs are all designed to move you and your design business to all new levels of getting paid what you deserve and what you're worth. I'm excited to share Terri with you again today. Hey, Terri, thanks so much for coming back onto the podcast today.
Oh, thanks. I'm so happy to be back here again. So much fun.
I am glad to have you back. I have a couple of housekeeping things that I would like to get involved with before we get to the actual conversation. One is, how are you enjoying being a podcaster? Because I know you have your own podcast now and you're teaching designers how to run their business. So tell me, how are you? Are you enjoying it? Or is it what you expected it to be?
I'm having a blast with it, really. I'm having fun. We're getting great responses back, and I get to go a little deeper than when I was doing this stuff on Instagram. So it's really much more fun, and I don't know. I really like it. And besides, you're the leader. It says, all right, I could do this.
Well, I listened to your show, and of course, it doesn't surprise me one bit that you're just giving such great advice. So we will put the link in the show notes. Say the name of the podcast, Terri.
It's Interior Design Business Academy podcast.
That's it. Perfect. All right. We will put the link in the show notes, and I highly encourage you guys to check it out if you haven't heard of it yet. Now, another housekeeping thing. You and I did a podcast episode where we were talking about quoting your flat fee. And then when there is an additional scope of work, somebody's like, starts to ask you questions about the powder bath or the foyer. And you are a big, proponent of stand in your truth and say, that's great. And I can give you another proposal for that. But a designer emailed me and said, a lot of people will just quote that smaller section of the project as an hourly rate, but you do propose that we quote that little add-on section also as a flat fee. And so, but then there's some discussion on should you even tell your hourly rate? Like, what is the deal with that? So it's kind of, I'm in the weeds on a question. I'm not very clear on the question, but I know you know what I mean. So clarify the different distinctions here and give us your 2 cents on it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, when somebody wants something else, that's obviously the time you can go for an upsell. I mean, it is a request for an upsell, but it is far better as an amount than, oh, I'll just charge you some hours, because then you're back in the tracking hours and explaining it and remembering to write it down thing again.
Mm.
So in your head what your minimum is. I mean, if it's going to take so many hours to research it, and then you got to put it together and present it. If somebody's asking for something like additional choices for the sofa fabric, you got a couple hours of research and then represent it. So it's easy to say, it'll only take me another 3 or 4 hours. Is 1,000 okay with that? And get the verbal okay for it right then and there. Because what happens is, if you just run it on hours and then you send the bill for it, then you get into the, oh, I didn't know you were going to charge that much for it. And you get that whole trust issue going again. So having that ready, so you can just say that, is really important. Now, just because there's a fee out there doesn't mean that you never talk about your hourly rate or ever disclose it. It actually belongs in your letter of agreement, down in the fine print in the bottom, which says that additional requests um, above and beyond this agreement will require the designer's prevailing rate to be applied. And you just note it as 225 or 175 or whatever it is. And it's just in there, so you have something to stand on when you go to do this, but it's not a big piece of your presentation of getting that new piece of business. Does that make
Okay, so
sense?
it does, and I just want to make sure I do understand it. So basically, what we're saying is, if you're working with a client and there comes that question that is leading to a quote unquote scope creep type of a thing, you're not necessarily going to say, "Oh, well, that will take me 3 hours, and I charge 275 an hour, so that is going to be 900 and whatever that is, right, or whatever that is, right?"
Right.
It's what you say is, "Oh, to do something like that is $1,000, and I'm happy." Like you say, "Oh, yeah, so that's going to require research on this and that and the other thing. Maybe I'm going to get you a little plan for blah 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 if it's a foyer, whatever,
Mhm.
and I'd be happy to do that. We're looking at $1,000. Should I send you an agreement for that?"
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the reason for this is internally. So I'm checking with you.
Mhm.
Internally, we in the moment said to ourselves, I probably need 3 hours to do that. And I make 275 an hour. So that's roughly $900. Let me call it 1,000 for the things I don't even know yet I'm going to run into.
Mhm.
But I don't say, oh, I'll do that for you. I think what you're saying is, we don't say, yes, I'll do that for you. And once I'm done doing it, I'll bill you for however many hours it took me.
Exactly. Exactly. Because that's where we get in trouble.
Right.
That's
Because
the
then
spot
somebody
right there.
says, how could it have taken you 3 hours to find a different sofa?
There you go. Right there.
Right,
Right
right,
there.
right.
Mhm.
And the thing is, what you're saying is, you are saying $1,000 because whatever you are talking about doing, whether it's finding a sofa, putting together a little plan for a foyer, that you've done it enough times that it's probably going to take you 3 to 4 hours to do it. So if
Yeah.
your hourly is 275, you're covering yourself. It's not like you're guessing. You're not throwing spaghetti at the wall. You're mentally saying, this is a 3 to 4 hour job. $1,000 covers this.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly.
right.
And if you've got a client you've been working with a while and you got a good agreement with, you could do it without creating another letter of agreement. You could just send an invoice for it right
Ah,
now, and when the invoice is paid, you do the work.
I love it. Now, here's the other thing. I gotta believe that if I'm less experienced and maybe it isn't so clear cut in the moment in my mind what it will take me to do this, I can reserve throwing the number out until I've had a chance to consider it, right? I can say, oh, I would love to, work on that for you. Let me give you a proposal for that tomorrow, or let me send you an email on that tomorrow. So that you're not like, guessing it's 1,000, you really think about it, it really should have been 2,000.
Exactly, exactly. It's really easy to do, to just say, hey, I just need to think about how much time it'll take me to do that, and I'll
Mhm.
get you a new agreement in the morning.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now the trick is you got to do it first thing in the morning. Don't let it sit there. Don't
Right.
let it sit there. They're going to go to Home Depot or something and do something weird, and and then you've got
Right.
to straighten it out. So
Okay.
just be responsive. That's all.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And then the idea that in your contract, you're disclosing your hourly rate, but the significance, what I'm hearing in your learning lesson for us today, is that we aren't necessarily verbally joining those two concepts together. We're not saying I charge 275 an hour, therefore this little agreement that we're adding on is for 3 hours and therefore is $900. Like we're not it's there, but we're not combining them.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
You're keeping it in the back room.
Right. And the reason for that is it's so funny because I'm learning this as you guys are learning this. So, but it being in sales, this is why I love
Mhm,
talking with you, Terri, because
mhm,
almost every time we talk, I'm like, I do a version of this myself with window treatments or whatever. I always
uh-huh,
see your sales process coming through, and that's what I love. So in my mind, I am keeping that in my contract
mhm,
because two things. I'm not connecting it out loud because I don't want them to start doing math. Okay. I'm
right.
just saying this is the value of this little add on that you want to do, and that just sits there. But the value of having it there enunciated is if I ever have to pull it out and say, we just extended XYZ by 2 hours. It doesn't live in any agreement, it doesn't live in any contract we have, and therefore I can bill you for these 2 hours.
True.
Right.
True.
Right.
True.
We're
However,
probably not
it's
pulling
good.
it out that much, right?
No, no,
No,
rarely,
right. Yeah.
rarely. You
Yeah.
just want to say it ahead of time before you send the bill.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you just do it and then send a bill and say, "Oh, well, it was in my contract," then you've got an unhappy client.
Right.
That's not fair. You need to quote it before you do it.
Right, 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 right. I love it. I love it. It's funny because the same with us with window treatments at Window Works.
Mhm,
It's so funny because when we're teaching our exciting Windows colleagues how to run their window treatment businesses more profitably, a lot of them will say, "Oh, your installation is, and your measuring in your installation is, you say on your website it's free, it's included, whatever." I say it's
mhm.
included is what I say it is because it
Uh-huh.
is included,
Yes.
right? you know, and so they'll say to me, "Well, how are you charging?" If a Roman shade is $500, how are you charging $750? Like, that's crazy. I'm like, because somebody has to measure it and install it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how do you give a designer, or how do you give a consumer a price that they're saying is above retail? And I'm like, but that's the retail for the product.
The thing. Yeah,
The
just
thing,
thing.
right? The thing has to get from their mind into
Mhm.
their window. And that
Exactly.
happens with people. you know?
Yeah.
And those people are on my payroll and they cost money.
We gotta pay the guys, you
That's
know?
it. That's it. So this in my mind is that sort of a thing. It's like, oh, I'm going
Yeah.
to find your sofa. I'm going to add this little,
Mhm.
zhuzh up to your foyer, and here's the price for it. But we don't need to break it down and say 25 cents for this and a dollar for that and
E
$500 for that.
exactly,
I love
exactly.
it. I love it. And
Just
then
like
one
that.
other housekeeping thing that
Sure.
came in connection with your conversation was, what about when there's designers that are open to the mix of retail? And the designer that asked this question did say, look, I get it. Full trade, buying wholesale, buying trade is the way to go. It is the most profitable way. But for a lot of designers, that little mix of some retail sales is not necessarily a problem. So her question is, yeah, I guess, how do you charge for it? How is it worded in your contract? And what is a good system and pricing policy for the jobs where it's a mix of trade and retail?
Good question. Really good question. I can answer that. This goes,
I thought you could.
if I could, yeah. This goes in your letter of agreement, and it's when you talk about purchasing in your letter of agreement, and you want to always touch on it briefly, not go into depth of detail, but briefly say how that's going to work. So again, you have something to refer back to. So, on trade products, we want to go out at retail just because it makes much more sense, right? And you need to get your discounts from the back end, not
Right.
the front end, right? So you got plenty of profit there. But then when you get to a retail place, you could just say, and then anything we buy retail would have a purchasing fee of 30% on it, 35%,
Okay.
just like that. Right.
Okay.
So, they need to know that the product doesn't get chosen and get shipped to a warehouse and do all the things you do free. I mean, the price of the product is the thing, right? It's the that same
Right.
analogy. Here's the bar stools. Yeah, and I agree. There's usually something they saw in Pottery Barn or Restoration or so, one of those places they want. Okay, fine, that's not a big deal as long as there's not too much of it. It's just that you need to get paid for doing it because you've got to handle the sale the same way, and that's where you can use the cost plus piece.
Okay. And the thing about that is, we're making the assumption that the designer is going to handle that then. They're going to place the order for it. They're going to receive it. They're going to deliver it on the reveal, install, or whatever. If those are back after COVID, I have no idea. Right.
Right? Yeah, yeah, they are.
um, oh, good. Okay, good. As opposed to the client who is just like, oh, I'm going to do all this on my own. Like that's a level of nuance, of difficulty there that comes from the designer really not managing the project and the expectations from the beginning in a lot of other different ways. Am I right? Like that's a bigger can of worms, right?
You are exactly right. Exactly right. Letting them buy themselves, having a hybrid purchasing situation will make you crazy. It'll be a mess,
Right.
guaranteed. Just
Right.
absolutely guaranteed. So it's really important to insist that either I buy this or everything or you buy everything.
Right. Right.
One or
Right.
the other.
And I know that that's, I'm sure a lot of designers just went, I could never make my client do that. But that is the point, right? And that's what
Mhm.
you teach in the Interior Design Business Academy, among other things, is how to consistently gain the experience and the expertise to up level your own process and system, your own confidence, so that you can say at the beginning of a project, I buy Amigo or you buy Amigo, but
Yeah.
no in the betweenish, right?
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And
yeah.
and you'd be amazed that when you have a set of boundaries, we'll call them rules, but they're boundaries that you establish right in the beginning, how easily people follow them.
Yes.
It's just like, oh, okay, that's how it works.
Yeah. No,
you know?
it's the truth.
So,
I mean, I think that is one of, and I know you know it even more than I know it because you've been
mm,
teaching and coaching designers for way longer than I've been in part of this
yeah,
conversation. But it, the thing is to understand that the ideal client, the client that really is right for an interior designer, an actual professional relationship with an interior designer,
yeah,
is coming to you for that service. They know they can go on the internet and buy stuff. Like,
that's right.
right? It's
Yeah,
like it's up leveling your own company and your own mindset to that. And then we both know the designers from beginning to getting to that is the constant hamster wheel struggle of understanding when to say no and how to stand and say this is how I'm going to do things. But that
mhm.
is what happens when you coach with somebody like you get those chops, right?
Well, you do. You get the system and you get the script of what it is, how it is you say it, and in what sequence you say it in, and it's fine. People are fine with it. They
Yeah,
just want a leader.
that's right.
They want a leader,
That's
right?
right. That is the thing. I mean, I'm a broken record with that. When you lead a project, I don't care what world we're in. I don't care what field, what industry you're in. When you go to work with a professional, you're expecting them to know what to do next and tell you what to do next. And you wouldn't have
Yes.
signed on with them if that wasn't what you were signing up for, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And the problem doesn't happen unless you back off and let her take over your job,
Mhm. Mhm.
quite frankly,
Yeah.
you know?
No, it's true. I remember
Mhm.
one time I was working with a designer and I guess relatively new in the sense of doing a big project. I think she
Mhm.
probably had been a designer for X amount of years and certainly knew what she was doing. But I think it might have been one of those first times when you're about to get that big, multiple $100,000 project and, blah,
Uh-huh.
blah, blah. But the thing was, I remember the designer saying to me, but I'm a little concerned and not sure how to handle what the client said. And she's like, the client basically point blank said, listen, I have designed 3 different houses in 3 different parts of the country. I know exactly what I want. I know exactly the way I wanted my house to look. And what I actually need is access to your trade accounts because I know that you get better stuff, or whatever the words were.
Mhm.
And I was like, and she was like, how am I going to structure agreement? How am I going to do this? And I was just like, no, 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 no. See,
No.
she's not hiring a designer. She's thinks she's getting trade accounts without opening them. That's like,
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
she, and it was funny because it was much more detailed and nuanced than that, the conversation and explaining it to
Mhm.
me. But I literally was like, you understand what she's telling you. She is not coming for your experience or your expertise. She's coming for your trade accounts. Be glad that she said it on consultation 1.
Yeah.
And just say to her, that's not how this works.
Exactly.
I design, you appreciate. If you're going to design, you get your husband, sister, brother to appreciate. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
there's that
Yeah.
that 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 beginning, that like baby steps to that confidence. And so,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, and that confidence comes from having
Yeah,
a system that's
exactly.
repeatable every time. This is
Yep.
the way we do it. This is how you explain it. Like it, and it's consistent. And what happens is people really appreciate it.
Yes.
That one will go find somebody else, but she should.
Yes.
She needs to get a purchasing company.
Yeah, she needs an order taker. That's all
Yeah,
I like.
exactly.
Because and it was funny because there was a moment where I could see in her eyes that she realized what I was saying was correct, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
And then there was just one more moment. She's like, "But this would have been such a good job." I'm like, "No, it wouldn't have.
it wouldn't. Yeah,
It
it
wouldn't
wouldn't.
have." I'm like, "Think about it. You wouldn't have picked a single item if she went with any suggestion. It would have been the least amount of percentage time that she went with what you weren't just getting photographs of this house. What are the
No,
chances that she has a good enough a sense of design than you do? Like,
exactly,
no, this is not. You
exactly.
didn't like. No, thank you, universe, for having
Hmm.
her say that the first visit, not the 15th visit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly.
because
And
they're not usually that like transparent, right? Like
it's
it's
true.
like, yeah,
It's true. And one of the things that happens when you're beginning your business is you hustle and you pick up every single piece of business
yes,
that comes your own way, right? We all
yep,
start that way,
yep,
agreed. But there is a point you come to where you got to stop doing that.
hmm,
Or you're going to be 10 years down the line and say, "What happened? I'm
right,
still scrambling and I'm not where I want to be." And it's because you didn't have a system, didn't have boundaries, and didn't stand on it. Didn't say,
right,
"This is what I want." And think of it this way, we have a really high bar when it comes to design. There are things you will absolutely not do, period. Right? And
right.
it's not hard to hold that bar. Well,
Mm.
everything else we do as designers needs to be at that same high level bar
Agreed.
right
Agreed. I
there.
love that. I love that. I really do. And the thing about it is you can do it the hard way, which is do all the mistakes yourself and then look back 2 years or 3 years and to conversations like this and go, "Oh, I'm so glad I heard all of that, but I still went and did it my way." Or you can really take to heart the conversations from people like yourself, Terry, and that really know how to do it and know how to teach you a system. And because it is all rooted into knowing this is how I do things. This is the way I do them and it works and I've run this and I get results. And okay, I love it. I
Yeah.
just love it. I knew you would have the answers for these 2 questions, so I
Sure.
appreciate you. Like I got the email and I was
Mhm.
like, I could take a stab at this. I'm like, but let's let Terry do it. Let's have her do it. So I love it.
Great.
Thank you.
Good. Good. Happy to do
Okay.
that. Happy to
So
do that.
yes, I appreciate it. So today we are talking about the 5 mistakes to avoid when working with a contractor.
Yes.
Okay. So
Okay.
I love this. Get us
All right.
started.
Well, the reason I bring this up is because we're coming up on my real deal, my once a year presentation for designers on how you actually become really profitable in a remodeling job.
Mm.
Okay? Because I know a lot of designers love doing them, but end up making pennies when hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent, and that's not right. And there are ways to put it on your side. I was going to call this leadership to bring that
Mm.
up again, but there
Right.
are ways that you stand and you control the job because you're the natural leader. And there's a way of doing that that's very gentle and non-sell it, not sleazy selling, anything like that, but just stepping into it. And part of this working with contractor stuff is part of being able to do that. So put that out there, and I'll tell you a little later about Real Deal and when that's going to happen.
Okay. Looking
Okay.
forward to learning about that. All righty.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that happens when designers get a lead on a remodeling job, and let's call it a kitchen. Let's say somebody was to remodel a kitchen, a typical kitchen, right? We're going to take two walls out, so it's a kitchen remodel. We're going to put a big island in, and we got to redo the floors, and maybe we get the furniture on the other side, right? It's kind of a typical garden variety remodel these days.
Mm-hmm.
What often happens is the designer shows up, calls her contractor, and says, "Hey, let's go look at this job." Now, the thinking is that you show up looking prepared. Like, here's my guy, and here's, here, we're going to get serious about this because we know, he knows what he's doing. What you just did was give away your job. You just
Mm.
presented yourself as not competent to do this on your own. You need the guy, right?
Mm.
And that, then you're not in the place where you need to be. There's no reason why you need him on that first call because you don't even know what it's going to be yet.
Right.
Right? Right? So we go from there. Then the next thing you really don't want to do is have him call out a number. And
Mm.
inevitably, see, that's why you brought him. You wanted him to go there and say, "Oh, this will be $100,000." Now, okay, so you got that far with your pricing, but what the truth is that he has no idea what those finishes are. He has
Right.
no idea what the client wants. You don't know what the client wants really
Right.
yet. You're not deep enough into it. And so what happens is that $100,000 wag, you know what a wag is, right?
No,
A
tell me.
wag, it's a wild ass guess, right?
I love that. How do I not
Yeah,
know that?
you know that
I
one.
love that.
You like that? Well, he
I'm writing
throws
that down, Tara.
you like
Wild
that?
ass
Okay.
guess.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so he throws out that $100,000, right? But the reality is when you get into this, you realize that it's not going to be $100,000. It's closer to two,
Mm.
right? And now the client has been misled. And if you based your fee on that $100,000 number from the contractor, then then you've walked away. We're successfully running 10 or 12% design fees on the budget of a remodeling,
Mhm.
right? So on a $100,000 remodeling, you got at least a $10,000 fee. But if
Mhm.
it's 200, you would have a $20,000 fee, and you're
Right.
walking away from essentially 10 grand by not by bringing this contractor in and trying to pull a price when you don't know what you're doing, right?
This makes perfect sense to me, by the way. And I have to say, any designer listening that has previously always brought their contractor to the first meeting, if you didn't just get a light bulb moment there with right, why I am setting it up that I need his support or her support as the contractor to evaluate this project. And the truth is, if you think about it, you don't. Right? You need to know what moves walls can move and how you're going to, hold them up if with whatever kind of beams you're going to do. But you don't need their presence at this point to evaluate what the client wants and what your impact could be on the job, right? And that's really
Exactly.
what that first appointment is to figure out, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love it.
So
I
yeah.
love it.
So yeah, it's getting out of sequence with what's going on, and it messes up your job. It really
Right.
does.
Right.
Really
And it's
does.
also having the contractor throw the number out. What I'm hearing to your point is he's not aware that if it's 200,000 you're going to need 20 on top of that for your design fees. And I have heard this a lot of times. I have heard a lot of times that designers say that it's a catch-22. The contractor, you want a price from a contractor, but yet you haven't picked the finishes. So he or she is allotting X amount of square foot for tile, and you end up picking X amount of square foot. So really, it's a dumb number at this point.
It
It's not
is.
based on anything, right?
Exactly. It's based on smoke and mirrors because
Yes.
in his mind, tile costs $2 a foot,
Right.
and in our
Right.
mind, it's 30.
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
not.
And the thing
It's
is,
just
we have allowed him to anchor a number that was never realistic to begin with.
exactly,
Right.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's too early for him, and it's not his fault because
Yes.
you didn't give him any information,
Right. Right.
right?
He's standing there looking at it and saying,
Hmm.
blah, blah, blah. No, it's so
Blah.
true. I mean,
It is
even
true.
on a small project, I mean, we've done small projects. We have a contractor that we've known for, oh my goodness, 30 years, and he's a great guy. But I, I don't think he's ever thrown out a number that actually ever was the number. And because we work with him, we're not doing a $200,000 project at a time. We're doing a 3,000 or a 5,000, and I see how it develops. I see because I'm working with him closely and we're personal friends.
Hmm.
And I allow room for, oh yeah, well, when you guessed it, you were thinking of $2 a tile, and I did walk in and pick the 30. But the
Hmm.
fact is we're friends. This is like, but you're talking about a professional relationship where some other person is anchoring a number that has been guessed out of the blue, and now you're going to pay the price when that number eventually reflects what your client actually wants, and your number is the way more accurate number.
Exactly.
But you look
Exactly.
bad. Right? The designer
Yeah.
looks bad now, right?
Yeah, yeah, because generally when you start getting in the cost overruns, the contractor goes, "Oh, well, your designer's expensive. Thanks, just got thrown under the bus," right? When it was not right from the very beginning,
Right,
right?
right,
And
right,
so it's not to say that we don't need him and we don't need his prices, but we don't need his prices in the first meeting, okay?
right,
That's the time for you to step in and do your thing, impress them, all right?
right,
And
right.
and that's a really really important piece because once you have stepped into a position of leadership and offer to what we do is it's called an exploratory agreement, and it's like a phase one of a letter of agreement to gather just enough information and just enough design concept and just enough numbers to let the client know what they want costs
Okay,
actually
okay.
actually okay. And so I mean a lot of us used to do that for free. I did years ago, many years
Mm,
ago.
mm,
It was a lot of work, and you
right,
sometimes you got the job, sometimes you didn't. This way you're going to get paid for it because it's part of the design process. It's part of the sales sequence that melds into design process. So what we've done is flip design process upside down and said, okay, do it in this sequence so that you get real numbers, you get a concept, and then you can sit down with people and talk about what things cost. And you can say to them, I want to do this for you so that you can make good decisions about your money and not be
right.
surprised, not be sideswiped by stuff you didn't know about. Right?
So let
Now,
me ask you about that for a second. So I'm your garden variety human. I have Terry Taylor come in. We're talking about a renovation or remodeling
mhm,
project. And of course, as your typical non-educated consumer, at some point in the conversation, I'm going to start to say, so what am I looking at here? What kind of price am I looking at? And I get that maybe with seeing my surroundings, maybe with the type of conversation we've had, you're kind of ascertaining, am I mid-level, am I upper level luxury, like where am I at, right? Like you're
mhm,
picking it up, possibly you're getting your educated
maybe,
opinion on it, right? Maybe, right? And
maybe.
maybe
Mhm,
I'm living in a place that I've rented and you have no idea what I'm accustomed to. That's another problem, right?
mhm,
And so, but the thing is, I I understand you're going to say, well, to get you an accurate price, I'd like to go into this exploratory agreement. And this will enable me to do all of the back work that I need to do to actually get accurate quotes for materials, labor, supplies, all the things. I'm curious what we charge for that. And then, depending on the fee for that, because I know people turn around and say, okay, that's fine, but just ballpark it now. So run me through both of those questions
Well,
on real life with you.
first of all, I wouldn't ballpark it now.
Just
Because it's
don't. You
like
just
you
won't.
just don't. Yeah,
Nope.
say
Good.
it's I don't know enough about what you want and about this particular property and what's going to have to happen in order to do that accurately. But
Mm,
what I can offer you is a little is an exploratory situation where I'm going to go in and I'll develop a concept for you what this is going to look like. We think a little bit of space plan perhaps, so we can say this is what we'd be thinking of. I'm going to run the contractors through and pull all the numbers. We're going to spend some time looking at all the finishes that you want. You want waterfall sides on your island. Well, you want great. We can do that. What's the level of stone or solid surface we're going to use? All of those questions, because that's a much deeper programming than you do in a first hour. Right?
mm-hmm.
It's just you
Mm-hmm.
can't get into all that. So we're going to get really deep into what there, and then I'm going to collect all these prices. I'll bring the contractors through. We're going to have a meeting together, and we're going to sit down and look at the numbers so that you can make good decisions about your money. And people's ears light up and their eyes sparkle and they go, you do that for me? Really? Because
Okay.
what's happening is they have all these horror stories about the price being one thing and then it's three times more, and they're worried about it, and they're really worried about this. They really want to
Yeah.
do it, but they're really worried about it because they hear the stories.
Right.
Right? Right? And so, the way the contractors work is they'll pull out a low number because they think the lowest number is going to get the bid.
Mm,
That's not who our client is, right?
right.
And
Right.
and then, and then everything is just an add-on. It's just, well, that's what you chose.
Right.
I don't think it's
Right.
a good way of doing business at all. So
No.
this way you actually have a budget you can sit down and look at. And even when somebody says I want to spend 100, you can say, "Great. Well, let's take a look at how we would spend that."
Mm-hmm.
Because
What do you get for 100? Yeah.
what do you get for 100? Exactly, because you
Right.
know full well the 100's not going to do it.
It goes
Because if
that
we want
far.
this and we want this and we want that, and by the way, we got to refloor the whole bottom floor, and it goes on and on. So then you can have a real conversation with people because you're not talking about how much money they have. You're talking about what all this stuff they want actually costs.
And how do you, is the exploratory agreement something that you suggest do this as a flat fee, or is that also based on the size project you're looking at?
Well, a flat fee based on the size project you're looking at. Okay, so
Okay.
a a
Yes
kitchen.
and no.
Yeah, well, yeah, I
Yes
mean
and yes. Yes and
exa
explanation.
exactly. Are we remodeling a 6,000 square foot house, or are we remodeling a kitchen?
Okay.
That's
Good
a
point.
lot of different work in there and a lot of different fee in the end. Um, Generally speaking, we're running 3,500 to maybe 8,500 on exploratory, depending on what you
Okay.
have to do. And you would like that to be no more than, say, or no, yeah, no more than a fourth or so of what the final fee is going to be, because there's got to be, because what you're going to do is say, then I'm happy to credit this exploratory into the fee to design the whole thing.
Oh, okay, fine. So that also is
Uh-huh.
very good, right? It's like,
Yes.
and by the way, so first of all, let me just, re-emphasize that. So what it is this ultimately becomes, and if you move forward with me, this, you will notice this line, this fee is deducted from the overall design fee. These are things that I would do for the overall design in order to get us a good plan. And, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Now, if I don't go forward with you, is there a deliverable that I get that as a designer you can say to me, and if you decide not to go forward, take next steps, here's what you're left with? Or I'm okay if
Well,
I'm not left with anything, but I'm just curious, if I
well,
am as a consumer?
Well, you are, because you'd have a sketchy space plan. Now, I want to say that, if you're faster at putting space plans into Chief Architect or CAD or something, do it, but then make a sketchy version, because don't give away your construction drawings. It's like,
Right.
don't do that, right? Right. But you could have a sketchy version. You could let them have the concept and the budget sheet for certain. It's like, here's what all
Okay.
this stuff costs.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you've taken a major step forward in this, because this is yours is a beginning piece. What it allows people is to stick their toe in the water
Right.
instead of leaping into something they don't know what it is. And
Right.
we find that 90% of those exploratories go to contract.
Right. Yeah. I would think that most probably do, because if somebody's willing to cut loose with 35 to 8500, they're pretty darn serious, okay?
Mhm.
But for the few, the 20, 30, 40, whatever percent is that are a little, you can look at them and say, you're left with something in your hands. This is
Mhm.
not, you can now take this and shop this with other people. You could put it on a shelf
Sure.
and come back to it a year from now. Like,
Yeah.
there's things it's not wasted time or money,
No.
right?
It's
And I
it's
also love, I think, you said it, and I want to go back and just say it again out loud, is the big twinge here, the big hinge here, I guess I should say, the big
Mhm.
thing to lean on here is not, oh, I want you to give me money to do something so I can get you a price. It's all about covering my hours. As a consumer,
Mm-mm.
you said it, most consumers are terrified of the project running amok, of
Exactly.
saying it's 20,000 and it's 60, saying it's 60 and it's 100, saying it's 200 and it's 400. And
Mhm.
when we guess a number based on nothing versus just saying, look, I understand you'd like me to guess you a number. I get it. And maybe with my experience, I could possibly get us in the ballpark, but I'm going to tell you, serve you much better, and our future relationship on this much better, and the outcome of the project, if I get you something that's really solid and not a guess, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do you, I mean, and the thing is, I feel like so many consumers have had the bad experience with the projects going way over budget, that you actually could say that, just say, you know what happens when we don't do this step. So the
Yeah.
next designer will come in here, or the contractor will come in here and tell you a number, and it will be one and a half to two or three times that number. And then you will be yet another consumer that says, you know what? Designers and contractors, they never come in on budget.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
Mhm.
the thing. Like, it's like if you just put the elephant in the room, what they're afraid of. So right now they're acting like they're afraid of giving you $8,500 to get a real number. But what
Mhm.
they're really afraid of is telling you, saying it's going to be 100 and it's 200. So put that fear in their mind is what I'm saying that you're doing, right, Tara?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And quite frankly, if they're serious about doing this project, it's a great offer.
Yeah.
It's like, it's get started and
Yeah.
find out what it is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's exactly what they need.
Yeah.
It's it works beautifully, quite frankly. It's
Hmm.
just a really easy thing to do. And
I
the
love
fact
it.
and the fact that it's work that we're going to do on your project anyway. It's like, that's the key piece, is that
It's
let's get started, but let's not commit to the whole thing till we know what it really is. Because
right.
we often have cases where people say, "Oh, I want to spend 100," and you're listening to this and you're going, I know that's at least two." And you say, "Okay, well, let's figure out how we're going to spend that. Let's." And so you go through all the numbers. You end up with a big Excel sheet at the end with all the numbers listed, and looking at it, and it's really $220,000. And you could sit down with them and say, "Okay, here's what all the stuff you want costs, but let's get real. What's really important here? How much of this do you want to do?" All right,
Right.
and
It's like, what are you willing to give up? Because you said you wanted all of this, and you also said you wanted to spend 100. I'm
mhm,
okay with either plan, but
exactly,
we can't have both. And you decide. You're the driver's seat. Are we getting rid of
exactly.
all of this or getting rid of all of that?
Exactly. So it puts you in the seat of being the trusted consultant, not the
Hmm.
salesperson.
Right.
Okay.
And the
Which
thing
is,
is, I know you know this in your experience, and I believe we've talked about it too. Regardless of what budget I say to you, I probably have at least 50% or 100% more in my mind. I just don't want to say it to you. I don't want to tell
uh,
you I'm willing to spend 200, because then I think you're going to come back with a $300,000 budget.
yeah, I know.
Right?
It's this weird psychological thing. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
just got to say, I think that when you say, "What's your budget?" people are asking, "How much money do you have?"
Right.
It's really the reaction you get, you know?
Right.
So,
Right.
but you can talk to people about what stuff costs.
Right.
Right?
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
And
Right.
then when you get the decision of how much of this stuff we really want to buy, all right, then you can quote your fee based
Right.
on that number.
Right.
Okay,
I
so to
love
put
it.
all this together for you, da 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 da, all these things you want for $180,000, my fee will be 22,000.
Right.
Just like that. Now that works really well because the first number is really big and the second number is really small.
Right.
It's
Right.
a
Right.
psychological thing, and it's easy to sell, very easy
Yes.
to sell.
And it should be very logical to accept at that point. It becomes what I just said a few moments ago about the Roman shade. It's like, yes, like this is the budget, the investment level for all of this stuff, and my fee to be the person to manage and handle and guide and design and do all the things is 22, because it doesn't just pop here. Like somebody's
Exactly.
got to do the things, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of eliminates, if you go through, I can see the process of going through something that's $180,000 budget and all the components, and here's the flooring, and here's the lighting, and here's the stone, and here's the cabinets, and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, to your point, and my fee to manage and design all of this is 22,000. It's sort of like, yeah, that's a lot. I can't do that. You know what I mean?
It's true. It's
And that
true. And
doesn't seem like a lot of money to make sure you're done. Are you sure it's like, my brain just went, are you sure it's enough?
well, the other piece of it, it's insurance that it gets done right.
Yes.
Because 200 grand is a big investment to put in your property.
Yeah.
It needs to enhance the value of the property. And so
Mm.
you need a professional in charge of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
And
that's
did
not
I
much.
say that right? Is that 22, is it just design, or is it design and oversight of the project, or is that a second fee, Terry? Is that just design?
It's design and specifications and some oversight
Okay, so
because you
that
got
is
to
a little nuance there.
yeah, you got to put a lid on it. Yeah, no, I teach how to do that too. It's part of the letter of agreement is you actually package the number of visits you're going to make,
Okay. Right.
right?
Because
And
we
if
don't
you're
want that train running off the track.
exactly. And
Mm.
you don't need to be a contractor to do this. You just need to understand what contracting is and give your GC the parts that have to do with labor, and you can keep all that product if you want to. So
Mm.
there's another piece of profit in there. Another on a $200,000 budget, there's probably another 40,000 in product in there.
Okay. And
Okay?
that's something that you have to be willing to iron out with your contractor ahead of time, and
I
making
had
sure what you're doing, what he's or she is doing, correct?
exactly. Regardless of who brought who into the job, that's a discussion you have to have right from the beginning. And I find that designers being sometimes terrified to call up and find out what the allowances are. It's like, well, you can't do your job without it. And
Hmm.
if he doesn't have it, then offer to do an exploratory is the first thing and figure it out
Hmm.
because nobody knows where we're going until we get the design done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird that design school doesn't teach money as part of the process.
I know. I know. It's
It's like
crazy.
it doesn't exist, but it actually runs everything.
Right. Right.
So
So that's your mistake number 4, is giving all the product and finishes to the contractor to sell. Like
yeah,
not claiming what you're going to sell. But you just said something in there that you find in your experience with teaching designers that they uncomfortable calling the contractor to ask what the allowances are. I don't understand that. Like, what about that? Like, I think I just like what that just went over my head. Why is that hard?
that's a good question.
Okay, so there's
I don't
nothing
know.
I'm missing
It's
in there,
No,
right?
I think it's confidence or it
Okay.
feeling intimidated or something, or he's the guy and he knows what he's doing. It kind of goes back to that first thing of bringing him with you.
Hmm.
You don't, you're a professional too, and you're not under him
Hmm.
or less than. It's
Hmm.
a straight across conversation. What are the allowances in here so I can provide all this stuff,
Yeah. Like
right?
that's interesting, because I think that, I mean, look, if you went to buy a car, you wouldn't be concerned with saying to the car dealership guy, what's included? Am I getting a sunroof? Am I getting heated seats? Am I getting power steering? Like, it's just an inventory of what's included. And therefore, I know what I have to add on for the things that I want that you didn't include.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
right. Well,
Pure.
that's crazy.
Yeah. It
I have a
is.
compassion for a lot of the things that are hard to do, but I'm like, that was just crazy. Just ask.
just ask, and push him, and if he doesn't have them, contractors traditionally are guys that are really good at their craft,
Yeah.
and then they decide to have a business
Yeah.
and they know nothing about running a business. All right.
Right.
So
Right.
you need to remember that he may not have that put together. It may be something you need to do,
Mm.
and you ought
And
to
that's
have
the
that.
thing. No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, if you're being brought in by him into the job, then you better have that conversation with him before you quote your fee on the job, because you don't know that what he's sold is going to work either,
Right, right, right,
right?
right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I was going to say, if you do ask for it and he does one of these, I mean, I don't know, and what's the big deal, and just do your thing or whatever, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. To me, that's code for I don't have the slightest idea, but a good offense is a good defense. So I'm going to push
Yep.
you back on your butt so that
Mhm.
you leave me alone with this. But,
Exactly.
there's more than one way around that. You can, just look, I actually am going to need it. And to your point, you're like, I can build it. We can talk
Mhm.
about it. I can build it, but I can't. How can I come up with something if I don't know you're allowing $2 a square foot or $10 a square foot? That's insanity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So you need to know who you're working with as you're
Yeah,
getting in here. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then
And
that
you
leads right into your number 5 mistake.
Mhm. Oh, right. Initiate the conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah, and not
Absolutely.
having like who's in charge of what, like who's doing what, right?
Exactly.
Because it's one
Exactly.
thing what the pricing is and when you call them in and all of that thing, but then also it's that managing on the boots on the ground, who has the call on certain things. Because I know I've personally been there. I know designers have talked to me about like, well, I mean, it didn't say if the tile should be on the straight or the diagonal, so we did it on the diagonal. That's awesome because that's not your decision, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, that you build to what I draw. Yeah.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
not not like that. I
Yeah.
had someone say that to me years ago on a commercial job, and in out of town. I was up in Scottsdale, and walked in, and I'm talking to the guy, and I said, "Where's your drawings?" He says, "Oh, out in the car. I'll build you something that looks like that." And I went, "Oh no, 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 we're not doing that. Not doing that."
Right? Because
Yeah.
there's 2 things that happen there. There's unfortunately design professionals that do not provide exact specifications and therefore end up with things that contractors decide on the job. And then there
Mhm.
are design professionals that provide the specifications, but the guy doesn't follow them.
Exactly. The other side.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah,
side.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And that
yeah.
rule is to carry those drawings with you all the time. I used to always hide a set of drawings in a remodeling house up like
Mm.
in the vents, the HVAC vents up above. So if I got somebody who claimed that they lost the drawing and didn't have it, I could pull it out and say, "Look, here, like this."
Wow. Yeah.
And I would get something, "Oh, you drew that?" And I went, "Yeah, I did."
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I
Pretty
cut
little old me did that.
yeah,
Isn't
I
that
did that.
something?
And that's something, and you know what else? I sign all the checks too. Oh, oh, alright, so we'll get there.
Yeah,
My
no, 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 it's
my
true. I mean, but I do know that it does start with us being prepared and having our drawings and having our decisions and not being the designer who shows up on the job and then is like, "Oh, lay it that way. Let me see if I like it that way or that way." That's
Mhm.
not kosher. That's not good, right?
No, it isn't,
Yeah.
it isn't. It needs to be all laid out ahead of time. You want all those like in a new build, you want all those specifications done before he ever calls for valves in the
Yeah.
framing.
Yeah,
Alright?
100%.
Everything done, right?
And the thing is, I think what happens is that in my experience, just being on jobs with, House of Funk jobs and,
Mhm,
Ellie Morose's jobs, different jobs that are run well, you know what I mean? And you're
mhm,
watching them and you're just kind of in the background. You're one of the vendors and you're there on trade day and you're there on install days and stuff. The thing about it is we all know at some point we're going to drop a ball. We're going to possibly forget a detail or do whatever. But I think when the contractor knows that you are the firm that does decide the things, have them in place, have them decided that they're not sitting there calling you 20 times a day. How high is the sconce? What direction
mhm,
does the tile go? That you are way more likely to get the call when something isn't specified as opposed to, well, we're just going to do it this way, because the contractor's experience with you is that you have figured it out and maybe he doesn't remember or that one detail you didn't specify, but he's been taught that you are specific.
Yeah.
Whereas when you are the person that is like, we call it, oh, you want to be all loosey goosey on the front, then you better get ready to be loosey goosey on the back too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so, like, I have so many times designers are like, they don't talk about what height they want the rod and where it should go. And, oh, you decide or blah, blah, blah. Okay, I do decide. But then you add crown molding. Well, then that decision is bullcrap now because
Yeah.
I made it without the
Mhm.
crown molding there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it can't be like that. But I do see and have experienced that you'll get more of those check-in phone calls and less, well, we just did it that way because you didn't say, when they know you to be the design professional in the partnership, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You've
Yeah.
solidified your position right
Mm-hmm.
from the get-go, right
Mm-hmm.
from the very beginning, and had that conversation and told him what you expect out of him,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
And the thing
And
too is, you know what it is? I'm thinking about it. It's usually not so much that the designer has left off a specification. It's something else was happening in the house. Oh, we had to change where the HVAC went, and now this drop down, ceiling has to
yeah.
happen. So I can't this. And then
Mhm.
I've been there when we've walked in and we're like, wait, so that was what you decided to do? And I'm like looking at the designer going, wow, that sucks for you. like, like, holy cow. And guess what? I got news for you. Drapes that I already made aren't going to fit either. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And
This
so
is
it's like this
yeah.
big domino effect.
Oh,
And a
yeah.
lot of times it isn't because of the designer leaving information. It's because two trades ahead of you, something else, either mistake or just had to be changed. And now the information has to come down the line. Right.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
didn't, and
Yes.
now it's costly on your side.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's
Exactly. Yeah.
brutal. It's
It it
we've
it
all
it
been there, right?
well, yeah, yeah, you and I land on the bottom because
Yeah.
we're the last people in, so
Yeah.
whatever's happened, we have to deal with,
Oh, believe me,
and that's
drapes are the last, next to
mhm.
the humans.
Yeah.
They're like the last, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
furniture is in, like, we try and get
Mhm.
it before the furniture, but we don't half
Mhm.
the time,
Yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
all of it is done, all the
Yeah.
work is done, and we walk in and are like, that's so pretty, that crown molding that wasn't there when we measured.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, we had this
Okay.
thing we had to hide because this wasn't even, so we decided to add
Mhm.
crown. Good. That's all really great information. But your
I
drapes are 4
okay.
inches too long now.
Yeah. I had the best. We tell war stories. I had the best one I had was a model home, and they flipped it. They built it in reverse, and we had
Oh.
2 sectionals in it, and so the sectional, depths didn't work because it was backwards.
Oh,
And we
God.
didn't know about it. Nobody told us nothing till the day I mean, you do all those things on paper. They're all digital, and put them together, and you show up the day with your truck with, you got 300 purchase orders to pull this off. The truck is ready, your crews are there, we're gonna put this together, and the house is backwards.
Oh my gosh, that's insanity.
Yeah. It's like, "Oh,
Oh my gosh.
oh,
Nobody
oh."
thought to tell us that this isn't exactly the house you designed for.
We just flipped it. We just thought it was a good idea. And I go, "Great."
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's insane. It is
Yeah.
crazy the
Crazy.
things that you run
Mhm.
into over the years that
It's true. It's true.
happen and you just can't account for it.
It's
You
true.
just can't. That's why,
Mhm.
when you are a member of the Interior Design Business Academy and you really learn the good process and the good system for getting things done, you do mitigate a lot of this. You're still going to have your
Yes.
war stories. I mean, my God, what
Mhm.
would you laugh and drink about it if you didn't have
That's
them?
true.
There's,
That's
you know,
true.
when you go to your design conferences and you come and you
Yeah.
see everybody, what would you talk about?
That's true.
We just don't want that many of
Yeah, we don't
them.
need that many war stories.
Exactly. A couple of good
That's
ones
right.
every few years are fine.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Oh,
Oh,
so,
it's so
oh,
true.
I want to drop in the very last piece of that is if you initiate this conversation about who's going to buy what and who's going to
Mm,
do what with the contractor, you need to know that if it's your job and you're bringing the contractor in, then you get to choose.
yeah.
Okay, you get to choose what you buy, you choose what you want him to do, you tell him in a work order what it is that he's got to do. If he's bringing you in, then it's his call.
Mm,
Okay, so you need to know where you stand in that, right? And if it's you've both been brought in together by the owner, which happens sometimes, then you
mm,
need to sit down and negotiate because then you're kind of on even ground. It's like, okay, maybe you want to keep the flooring and the lighting and he wants to do the tile and the da da da. So
right.
Yeah, yeah,
I know.
that
I think that's awesome. And I think the thing that what you're saying, which is probably an unusual concept to a good portion of our colleagues, is if you bring him in, you can give the list of what you will be selling and what he will be selling. Like, I think
exactly.
that's the big thing that you probably, I mean, I just knowing the designers I have interacted with, and I'm sure you would say that that's the thing that probably most designers are like, wait, what? I get to say?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's that leadership position. If you've developed this job with your exploratory and you're the leader, you're the trusted consultant, you're bringing him in. I
Hmm.
mean, that's you're in that position already. All you got to
Hmm.
do is call it.
Yep, that's right. And there is that it is the leadership. It is, and it is saying it like you always say the expression pass the salt, right? It is
Yep.
just, this is just what it is. I have invited you to come on this project with me. I have invited you to quote this project with me. I'm hoping that you get the contract. I want you to do this with me. And here are the ground rules. I'm doing flooring, you're doing this, I'm doing that, you're doing this. And when you tell the contractor, explain to the contractor ahead of time, the contractor can choose to stay or walk at that moment
That's right.
before he or she is too far into it.
Exactly.
Yes, you can
Exactly.
just move
Yeah.
on to the next one who likes the deal. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you gave him notice of what it's going to be because you asked him in the exploratory for
Right.
this batch of labor numbers.
Right, right. And then when the contractor brings you in, then you should, if he doesn't or she doesn't say to you what the ground rules are, you should say to them, hey, I'm accustomed to supplying XYZ. What's your
Mhm.
thoughts on this? Like, how do you
Exactly.
want to run this? Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I would lead with, I'm accustomed to doing this, right? Because if he never wants to do the lighting, say, or I don't know what
Mhm.
component a
Whatever.
contractor wouldn't
Mhm.
want to do, he might think, I always get stuck doing this. So let me just say, I do the lighting, blah, blah, blah. But if I led with, I typically, I do the lighting, I do the flooring, I do this, I that, he might look at you and go, great. The only thing I want back of that is blah, blah, blah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
and then the profit's on your side, and, you're
Hmm.
gonna do the work anyway, you might as well buy it,
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
gonna go down there and make sure the tile is what you ordered before they install it, you'll make sure open the boxes to make sure the lights are what you ordered, so
Right.
why not profit from it?
Right, 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 right. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, like with us, with interior designers at Window Works, some designers buy the fabric through us.
Mhm.
Most designers buy their own fabric because they can make money on that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? And they say to me, "Should I do it or you do it?" And I just said, "Look, one of us is going to make the money on it because I'm not doing it for you for no money.
Mhm.
So you decide. Like I'm good. You decide. I will do it for you, but I'm going to charge you. Or well, I can make more money if I do it on. Yes, you can. Go right ahead.
Mhm. Go do it.
Like
Go do it. Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
It's, but I'm not, I've had in the past designers where I've said, like, we charge 40 over net.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, oh, but if it's 50 a yard, I'm going to charge you 90, say, or
Mhm.
whatever. Like, I
Right.
can't do numbers
Okay.
in my head. You know
Yeah.
me. And they're like, oh, but it's 50 a yard net. I could get it at 50 yard. Yes, you can. Go get it. Go
Go
get it.
do
It's
it.
fine.
Go do
Or,
it. Mhm.
or you- I'll pay me 90, charge your client 110 and make 20 a yard for doing nothing, for just
Yeah.
writing the name down on an email. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I don't
Whatever you
care.
want. Whatever you want. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly.
Exactly.
Because we do have designers that do that. They're like, you know something? I'd rather make 10 or $20 a yard and just literally indicate that pattern than place the order, check the order, receive the order, send the order to you. Oh my God, there's like, we have a job right now for a designer. It's a sin. You know how they often ship 118-inch fabric folded in half, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
of course, you're going to get the crease. That's not the sin. The sin is we're on our third batch of fabric where the crease is dirty. It's
Ooh.
like somebody at the fabric mill is folding the fabric in half and then carrying it along the floor on the edge of the bowl. And you're just like, what part?
Oh.
Like, and the thing is,
Wow.
we are like, the designer is back and forth because the designer sold the fabric and we're like, here it is, it's dirty again. Like, maybe
Mhm.
you want to, like, squawk a little louder, get somebody
Yeah.
to pre-inspect it,
Mhm.
but some designers understand, I've got enough details. You chase that crap,
Yeah,
right?
it's great. Yeah. Yeah, and it's
So,
fine.
yep.
So if you've got a purchasing system set up, it's really easy to do. And if you don't, it's just more detail
Mhm.
on the designer and it can make you crazy. So
Yep.
it's kind of
Yep.
a choice of where you're going to go with this and
Mhm.
what you want to do.
Yeah, but I
For
love
sure.
the designer, owning as much of the product sales as they possibly can, right? I mean,
Well,
that
I
makes the
I think
most
so.
sense. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
I
I
mean, that's
agree.
my standpoint. I mean, I went so far as to get a contractor's license. So I
Mm.
did all of my remodels. I did everything,
Wow. Wow.
and I had a markup on all the labor too, because I was a contractor. But you don't have to do that.
Well,
You can do it and keep that part separate and still profit from all the pieces.
yeah,
So,
love it.
it's your job. You choose,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
you know, we have a lot of people in Interior Design Business Academy doing this quite successfully. I wanted to share one kind of funny moment last week in our Q&A, and we were talking about one of our designers has been working on an exploratory and came up at 1.2 mil for it. And I went, "Wow, that's a nice one, big ones, furniture and remodeling stuff. A whole package of everything." Wanted. She says, "Yeah, I think my fee is going to be like 178.80. Can I say that?" And I'm going, "Yeah."
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a pass the salt moment. It's like, okay, you may need to practice this a little bit. So you get the edge out of your voice and the tremor out of your every
That's
cell in
right.
your body. But yeah, nice job. Nice
That's
job.
that is amazing. That must be so gratifying, Terry, to watch somebody go through all the various steps of your interior design business academy and then get to a point where they're presenting a $1.2 million project and saying, and my design fee to make all this magic happen is 180K. Like that's amazing.
It's great. It's really
Yeah.
fun.
Oh
It's
my
really fun.
goodness. It's
Okay.
like watching your kid like graduate from college.
Yeah,
It's like,
it is.
look
It is.
at
You did it. You did it.
you.
Yeah. Well, and the whole, our whole, tribe celebrates. It's like,
Yeah,
yay, you did it.
yeah.
You know.
Actually,
It's
you know
a,
what I'm gonna say?
Mhm.
You know what it is? It's like watching your kid get into college because now the designer has to execute that project. So
That's
now
true.
the hard work comes.
That's right. That's right.
Then another whole tribe of you congratulating when she pulls that off,
People,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a quite a responsibility with that too.
Sure.
That's right.
Yeah, that's no
You're
joke.
Yeah, I have no problem charging a lot, but you gotta produce. You
That's
gotta
right.
you gotta be at that level, and it's really fun. It's really
Right.
cool.
And you get there. You get
Oh
there
yeah.
little by little, inch by inch, by
Hmm.
every little aha moment, every
Hmm.
little information that you teach them, every information they get from the colleagues of their designer colleagues in your groups. I mean, this
Hmm.
is the thing. And so now you're doing the real deal again. Right.
Yes.
And so that's a
Yes.
like, what is that? A 1 day or a 2 day? What tell us about the real deal? Because this is
Well,
for non-interior design business academy member. Like you don't have to be a present member to go to this, right?
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. This is one of the few trainings I open up to the public designers. It is originally for our designers. They're all there, but we do open it up, and it is how you own a remodeling job and get paid what you're worth. It really is the industry's premier event for serious, and I want to underline serious interior designers. This
Mm,
is 3 days of information that builds on itself. So it's not fluff. Okay. This is exactly how you do it. So, if you want to bring consistent high profit and remodeling jobs into your business, this is where you need to be, because we'll show you exactly how you do it. The dates are May 10, 11, and 12. So it's 3 days. They're 8-hour days. I will warn you, long
wow.
days. We
Mhm.
have a good time. We do some fun stuff in it too. It's a lot of mix of different ways of learning, a lot of breakouts, a lot of connecting with people, some video, it's an interesting day. But I'll show you how to, first of all, to shift your system so that you're going to flip the design process upside down so that you can offer just enough to the client to get a concept and get real numbers to them so that they can make good decisions about their money. This
Mm,
puts you in that position of being that trusted advisor. I'm going to show you how to shift your fees based on that budget. So now you're not basing a fee on a $100,000 WAG from the contractor. You're basing your fee on the $186,000 that they approved, right? And
right.
you've sold the job essentially right there. I mean, all you got to do is fill the order now. right? We're
I
going to
love it.
shift the profits so you get a bigger payday, so you understand how to pick up those pieces along the way, those product pieces, and how you say that. We're going to shift your time a bit. We're going to show you how to do the job in less time because it has a structure to it. This is the actual production. This is the actual production of the job you're doing, how you're going to move through it. And I'm going to show you how to stop rescuing contractors. This jumping
Mm.
up and running out the door and rescuing a contractor is what destroys your time. It's why you're working at 10 o'clock at night. It's because you lost your afternoon to fix somebody else's problem that
Mm.
probably didn't need your personal attention immediately. There's a
Wow.
little piece there we got to look at is like, what do we get out of rescuing? It's
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
what is that, right?
That's a real
All right.
thing. That's
It
a
is a
real
real
thing.
thing.
Yeah, I'm
Oh, I
sure it
know.
is.
Yeah. Oh, it
Yeah,
is. It's
I
huge.
swooped in, I saved the day, blah, 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 but
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
did I need to? And in hindsight, was that where my best time was spent, right?
Exactly. And I
Mm.
paid for it dearly by missing out on my kid's soccer game or
Mm.
staying up till midnight to get my paperwork done. So,
Mhm.
that piece. We're going to shift your offers so that you get interior design and furnishings in as part of the budget. When you do that, you are much, much more likely to get to do the furniture too, because it's already in the process. It's already laid out of how much they would be spending. They actually include it in their budget. And then
Mm.
you don't get lost in the construction overruns, because that's usually what happens to our furniture. By the time
Right.
we get to the furniture, they've spent all their money on construction overruns. Well, we can show you how you do that earlier in the game so that you get that in there. And then the contractor has to figure out where that money's coming from instead of you. Just shift. It's a little shift there. So there's shifting some efficiency. It's about setting down boundaries in your job so everybody knows what's going to happen and have clear expectations. There's no wishy-washy stuff. They know what the deliverables are. They know where they're getting. And then there's this mindset shift that's about becoming the trusted consultant instead of the little decorator showing up, talking about the kitchen and what the cabinet color would be. You turn into this trusted consultant who understands remodeling and all of the pieces and can advise them as to what was going to work best. Put you in a whole different place. Whole different
Wow.
place. So it's cool. It's cool. It's
It's
3 days.
comprehensive.
It's
Yeah.
comprehensive. It's intense. It's May 10, 11, and 12. It's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's all day. Figure on 7.5, 8-hour days all day through. So you need to be serious about this. But you're going to get all of the systems templates it takes to do this, all of the scripts to follow, how you say it, how you present the exploratory, how you present the budget, how it is you say, your fee. Okay, there's all
Wow.
scripted and set up for you. There's letter of agreement examples that you can riff off of, both for the
Right.
exploratory agreement and the construction agreement. So you can see how the boundaries get into the contract. Okay, and so you can take those and write your own from this example so you know where you're going. You'll get the pricing worksheets to figure out your fee and how you're going to spend your fee or time. So we've got that all worked out in a template sort of situation. So the whole thing is really a recipe. It's really a recipe for highly profitable remodeling jobs.
I
All the
love it.
pieces are there. It's a lot of fun, a lot of connection, a lot to do. Um, and I'm excited about doing. I do this once a year, so it's really fun to teach. The super duper early bird pricing is opening right now. Cart's opening today. It's $15.97 for the 3 days. Great deal. This is the best price it will be. It's only there for a week. There is a to-pay for $8.97. You can pay it over 2 months if you want. And that offer's there for a week. Now, after that, the price goes up and the bonuses change a bit. But on this super early bird, we also have project time estimating, which is one of my trainings about how you figure out your time when you don't have a budget to go off of, say a big new construction job and you're just writing specifications. How you figure out your time for that, because that's a big number and people don't usually hit it
Mm.
correctly. This is a this is a system that can help you get there. It came right out of my studio. It's how I used to do it. Um, I'm doing a stepping into your luxury mindset webinar. Okay, this is going to
Mm.
be live. It's a small group, just you guys and my students, and it's about shifting your how you feel about your value and how you feel about pricing into getting out of what you think about money and getting into your client's head and how they feel about money. And there's a lot of work to be done in there because we are not of the same socioeconomic class as our ideal clients.
Right.
Don't need to
Right.
be, don't want to be, it's fine. It's fine. But we need to know how to get our money stories out of there so that we can serve them well, that they get what they want, and that we profit from it as we should.
Mm.
Okay. And it's not about saving the money. Right.
No. No, it's about giving them
It's not.
value and service.
And service, yeah,
Yeah.
and experience and bragging rights and
Yes.
all this other stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really cool thing. That's one of the most important things in there. And then there's a team building webinar in here too. That's a bonus that you'll be interested in, because as you start expanding and getting in bigger fees, bigger jobs, you need more team behind you, and you want to do it clearly and make good hires that help you instead of bad hires that push you backwards, right?
I love
So,
it.
all of those are the bonuses. It's a $6,891 bonus package. That's really cool. That's the biggest one we've ever done, but it's cool. I'd love for you to have those things. So at
Wow.
any rate, you just go to interiordesignbusinessacademy.com. You'll see the pop-up come up, click on it, and it will take you to the page that has tons of information. Okay, should answer all your questions. You can grab your ticket there. Grab it quickly because it's just limited. I don't put hundreds of people in this. Right, this is a
Mm.
pretty intimate piece. So grab your ticket and be there, because it's a really cool thing. So if you're the kind of designer who's all over construction sites all the time, even though you're not getting paid for it, I know a lot of us are. I always was. I really like construction and things getting
Mm.
built and that sort of thing. You really need to be on this, because that particular ability or interest can make you the owner of these remodeling jobs and be really, really profitable and fun and great publishing at the end, and all the good stuff.
Wow.
All the
Wow.
good stuff.
Oh my goodness. It sounds incredible. I have to tell you, this is no joke. I literally a couple times I was like, wow, this would be good to go to. And I'm like, who are you kidding? You don't need to do this, Louise. Like, you're not a designer. You're never going to be a designer. You don't even want to be a designer. I'm like, but this is a lot of stuff.
Well, you're welcome to join us. We'd love to have you.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? My eyes would be glazed over the first half day. Oh my goodness. It
Maybe.
really does seem like a great 3 days. And it's virtual, right?
It's all virtual, all on Zoom.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's nice too, that it's virtual and you can and then I don't know if I ever knew this. Are they recorded so that if you've purchased it, you can, you have to take your kid to the dentist, you could watch it later or it's show up or forget it.
We have an option to get the recordings afterwards. It's a $300 bump to do it, and it's
Okay.
if you want to have it and keep it, then we're fine with that. Really
That
good with
makes
that.
sense. Yeah,
Mhm.
that makes sense. You know what? Um, I mean, I think to your point, you're encouraging them to show up in real time. Just pretend you're going out of town for 3 days, right? Line up your
Exactly.
babysitters and have the dinners delivered, or store them up ahead of time and put it in the fridge. But pretend you left and you went out of town, and you're taking this time for yourself to just show up and be there.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. That's how
Hmm.
you get the very most out of it, is just
Yeah.
just be there. Yeah,
Hmm.
totally and totally present. And yeah, we have a whole front end piece that suggests all those things
Okay,
about
makes
getting
sense.
getting your kids set up, and and
Yeah,
we
because
will
if you just slide into it and think that nothing's going to come up, that's crazy, right?
it's
Like, oh,
true.
my kids will
It's
be
true.
good in the background. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know that,
Yeah,
right?
get a babysitter.
Yeah, your kid could
Or
have strep throat that day. Cancel,
yeah,
cancel, right? It's like,
that's
no, no,
okay.
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
So, yeah, no,
exactly.
I like that. I like that a lot. And of course, since you do have the breakouts and different things, there's value to being there so that you can ask questions in real time and do the things.
Well, exactly. We have a lot of Q&A time in there, because I'm
Hmm.
going to explain it. We're going to share some things on it. We're going to ask for questions. We want to make sure everybody has clarity.
Right,
Everybody,
right.
right?
Makes
Not
perfect
just a
sense.
few. Let's everybody got it,
Makes
right?
perfect sense. Well, I mean, I have to say, Tara, every single time you come, I learn something. I'm not even in the I don't even do it for a living. And I'm like, I feel like I mean, I visualize exactly what you say. What you say in the way you teach it, it just reads like, if you do this, then this. It's like if you give a mouse a cookie. If you do this, then that'll happen. And if you do that, then this will happen. And it just
Yeah,
comes from having that education and that opportunity to understand what the steps are and the sequence to do them in, because when you understand why the things come in certain sequence, then that's the magic of presenting them that way so that the client, falls in line. Because anytime I talk to you, I always visualize myself as the client. And I always think, yeah, that's what I would want to know then. Well, that's the point I would want to know that. Well, that's how I'd want to be told that. You
Yeah.
can tell me
Yeah.
to run the remodel any day of the week, Tara. I'd buy 3.
Very good. Very good. Well,
Oh,
and you understand sales process, and
yes.
that's really what this is.
Yeah.
This
I
is the
always see it in your
yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
yeah. This is the sales process to walk yourself into a big remodeling job
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be in charge of it.
Yeah, and we
Mhm.
know when you are a student of sales, what you know is the goal of every sale. I've said it ad nauseum for 7 years, is the win-win. That
Yeah.
is the goal. It is not. I literally, I literally just said to a Window Works customer last week. This was the 4th conversation in debating 2 options on her thing. One option is $5,000. One option is $3,000. And I know she wants the $5,000 one, because every
Mhm.
time we figure it out and she asks me to requote it and we come down, she comes back and says, I'm just wondering if blah, blah, blah. And finally, last Friday, Terry, she said, I'm just not sure what I should do. She goes, what do you think? And I said to her, don't say that to me. And she's like, what? I said, because I can stand here and I can talk you into either one. I can. I have the ability to do that. I can give you the features of either one and you will buy it. I said, I want you to answer, which one do you want? I know they will both work. And she's like, I really want blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I know you do. Just do it. It's like, what are you doing? Like, because, like it's just like, I mean, it is a big difference in price. But like I ultimately said, if you do the $3,000 option and you walk in your living room every day wishing for the 5,000, did you save 2,000 or did you burn 3,000?
There's a good point.
That's it.
There's
I'm
a
like,
good
you
point.
just
Yeah.
burned $3,000. I'm like,
Mhm.
I said, are you ever? I said, I put these up. I put them up with the $3,000 option. Take me a year from now.
Mhm.
What are you going to think when you walk in the room?
Yeah.
I'm going to
Oh,
wish I had the other.
mhm.
Exactly. What are we doing? And
Exactly.
that's where I'm like, Luann, stop talking because you're getting very crazy right now. I've been out of the saddle for many years and my patience has gotten a whole lot shorter. But
Well,
I want the
mhm,
win-win. I know I could have talked her into the $3,000 option. But in my
mhm.
heart of hearts, she had said enough indicators to me over the last 4 weeks of having this conversation that she A, can afford the other option, B, she truly wants it. And I don't know what's happening in her money mindset stories that she doesn't feel that she could just own it and have it, because it's a $7 million home. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
It's
saying?
not. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? So I
mhm.
just, but that's the thing. It's like when you understand your sales process and the way you teach it with real tangible, with going along with the remodeling process, you really will come to more win-wins. And that's what's really good about what I observe in your teachings all the time, Tara. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you. I
yeah,
feel the
totally.
same way.
Thank you.
It
Yeah.
doesn't it doesn't work if it's not a win-win,
Right, right.
right?
It's
It
that's what I
it's
said. I could talk you into either one. Stop. Not, but they're not both going to be a win-win. That's the
ex
thing.
that's the thing. Yeah.
That's the thing. I knew it in my
Mhm.
gut that she really wanted the other, and I'm like, don't ask me which one because I could talk you into either.
Not the
But
point.
that's selling to get a close as opposed to selling for the win-win, right?
Yeah, right,
Yeah,
because in
and
the win-win, you keep the customer. They keep
that's
coming
right.
back because 'cause
That's
they're
right.
happy. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So just because we know how to sell for the win-win doesn't mean we don't know how to sell for the close. Let's be serious.
That's true. That's true. But you don't need to do it.
No, no, that's why I love the profession. It's always looking for the win-win and really getting to it. So, and I love that you do that through the lens of the remodeling, because that's a tactical sales training as opposed to just top view sales training. It's really tactical. So,
Yeah,
all
it
righty. Well,
is.
thank you for being here. And I wish you
Okay.
lots of luck on the launch. And I, just congratulate ahead of time any designer that decides to be a part of the real deal. Like, hats off to you for taking a step and investing in yourself. That's awesome.
Fabulous. Thanks for having me. It's a great opportunity for me and for all those designers. Thanks again.
Exactly. Well, another fantastic episode from Terri in the can, right? I mean, every time she comes, this is like an MBA in running an interior design business, these conversations with Terri. And I'll bet this episode hit it on the head for you, right? I think there's sometimes a misconception that contractors are responsible for more than they actually are, when in fact, you as the designer, especially if it's your project, are in control of much more than you might have thought. We needed someone to differentiate the responsibilities of a designer and a contractor and to tell us once and for all what not to do when working with a contractor on a remodel. It's important to keep in mind as we listen to these contractor mistakes that we are professionals too, and we are not under them or less than them. Maybe there's a sense of intimidation when communicating with contractors, but I don't think that's necessary. Terri says there are ways you can control your remodel job, make it profitable, and it can really enhance your relationship with your contractor, right? This information is just a taste of what Terri has in store for you in her upcoming Real Deal presentation. Her once-a-year, 3-day event is, in her own words, the recipe for a highly profitable remodeling job. Maybe you love doing remodeling jobs, but can't figure out how or why you can't make good money off them. You may be constantly on construction sites and wonder, how can I turn this into a profitable revenue stream for me, right? Now, you may know by now that this is one of the few trainings that Terri opens up to the public designers, right? And in this jam-packed event, each day is 8 hours worth of teaching, expertise, and Terryisms on how to own your remodel job and get paid what you're worth. A subject that Terri is very passionate about, and every time she comes on the show, she shares something about that, right? This Real Deal event takes place May 10, 11, and 12, 2023. The early bird special is available now for a one-time payment of $15.97. This will come with a Stepping into Your Luxury Mindset live webinar about how shifting how you feel about your value, which we love to encourage you on the show to do, right? And helps you understand your own and your clients' money stories, okay? You also get Terri's project time estimating training and team building webinar. The early bird price is available for only 1 week. 1 week from when you're listening to this on the day it airs. Then the price is going to go up and the bonuses are going to go away. So I encourage you to not hesitate. Go over to interiordesignbusinessacademy.com. You'll see a pop-up that will take you to the page with all the information so you can get your Real Deal early bird tickets. Mark your calendars, May 10, 11, and 12. All right? And if you think that's it, Terri will be offering a free training webinar, Own That Remodeling Job and Get Paid What You're Worth, which is taking place live on March 31st, April 3rd, and April 5th at 12 p.m. Eastern. This is a live 90-minute masterclass where Terri will show you the 3 key steps that have helped hundreds of interior designers like you create profitability on remodels. Okay? Head over to interiordesignbusinessacademy.com/real-deal-webinars. Okay? You can learn more about it and register for 90 minutes of your time. You'll probably walk away with some great ideas on how to make your jobs better. Thank you tons, Terri, for joining us again today and for leading the way and helping all of us in the industry earn more money on the work that we're already doing, right? I love that. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.